Diet Lime Coke. The way to a man's heart. At least mine. Okay, so NHL. I was all anxious to talk about what's going on in the playoffs right now, but something much, much greater has happened. I get myself centered. I don't like not being centered. The Canucks have signed Thatcher Demko. Thatcher Demko was drafted in the second round a couple years back, and I've followed his stats. They've measured at or above Corey Schneider's at the same period in time in his career. He's 6'4", and as a Canucks fan, I'm disgusted I'm wearing a Maple Leaf shirt, but the shirt I was wearing wasn't very flattering. And I'm very excited right now as a Canucks fan. Goaltending wasn't Vancouver's problem this year. Vancouver's problems, and I'll get into them. I'm going to do a series of videos on teams that missed the playoffs and what I think they need to do to get better when free agency and the draft roll around. The Canucks' problem is not in net. Yes, they're paying Ryan Miller too much money, but that's a cap thing, not a Ryan Miller thing. But Thatcher Demko on an entry-level contract enables them to get rid of one of them. Or Miller expires at the end of next year, and that's likely where they're going to go. If Demko... And up until a couple days ago, I was seeing people say, he's not going to sign in Vancouver anyways. Because every now and then a college guy like Justin Schultz, Jake Gardner, and now Jimmy Vesey in Nashville, these guys have all said, I'm not signing with the team that drafted me. University guys can do that and get away with it. And because those university guys have been able to get away with it, now there's an assumption of, oh my God, we've signed university guys. They're never going to sign with us. I was never worried because Demko's in a good position. He's with a team that's rebuilding. He's got a good chance to be a starter within the next, I'll say 3 years. I wouldn't be surprised if it was 2. Because Markstrom hasn't proven himself over a full season as a starter. He's been shaky. He's got potential. Markstrom's got potential as a starter. But I don't know if he'll ever be a top 10 guy. I think he's more of a Niemi type, if anything. That if he's got a great team in front of him, maybe he does something, but otherwise, probably not. Demko seems to have the potential to be fantastic. This is a big day for Vancouver, and it kind of overshadows my playoff thing. For me, as a Vancouver, I'm not a local. I'm 90 clicks east of Vancouver, but it's as close to a local team as I'm going to get. Vancouver made me very happy by signing Demko. This should shut some people up. And it shows that the rebuild is in full force, and hopefully the team will be better sooner than later. Now, speaking of better sooner than later, Tampa. Holy crap. Last night's game threw me, because when Detroit tied it up, I was like, okay, Detroit's going to win this, and then the whole series is going to change. Tampa weathered it. They weathered it, they gritted it out, and they won. Now Detroit's down 3-1, or Detroit, if you're a Bob Cole fan. And what's been a very entertaining, very close series, Detroit just can't compete with Tampa. And you can say, oh, if they put Jimmy Howard in from Game 1, how would things been different? The games might have been a little closer, but you still lose. Game 1 and 2. I don't think Jimmy Howard's a great goaltender, but he's not at fault for the 0-2 hole they were in going home. Anaheim beat the crap out of the Predators last night in terms of the scoreboard. 3-0 is a blowout by playoff standards. And Anaheim had to have that game. That is a you have to win or you're done situation. So they won. And I never said Nashville's going to win this and they're going to sweep it. That only crazy people would say that. But Nashville has to win Game 4 now. This is a momentum thing. Pittsburgh is now in the driver's seat against the Rangers, I think. That series kind of goes back and forth. Pittsburgh's got a goalie named Matt Murray, and nobody seems to pay attention to him. I know when Pittsburgh drafted him, and I mean, I have NHL, EA Sports NHL games, and Matt Murray developed into a fantastic goalie for me in one of my franchises. So I'm like, that Matt Murray kid, he's a keeper, because you think you're really a GM when you're playing the game and you're drafting guys. You're, oh, I think this guy's going to make, this is the one I want. And you scroll through all these players looking at these guys. it's a crapshoot. And in the real life, it really isn't that different. So then Murray plays last year in Wilkes-Barre, or Wilkes-Barre, however you pronounce it, and he posts the goals against below 2 as a 19-year-old. I'm like, wait a minute, this goalie is basically just out of high school, and he's posting a goals against of below 2 against players who are almost NHL caliber or NHL caliber and just waiting for the call. That's insane. And I'm still looking through all these hockey magazines. I'm like, well, where's all the stuff about Matt Murray? And it's like, Pittsburgh's potential starter in the making. Pittsburgh signed Jeff Zatkoff, so Murray's going to stay another year in the minors. And it's like, I'm sorry. This kid at an NHL level posts goals against average below 2 as well. And I still don't hear anything about him. I'm still waiting for fans and for writers and for NHL nuts in general to get it. This kid is a fantastic goaltender, potentially. It's early and the stats are encouraging. And he could Jim Carrey and Blaine Locker himself out of the NHL, but I really don't think so. I'm very excited about Matt Murray, and I'm not a Penguins fan, but I got to say, seeing him get a win over New York, if this kid can take Pittsburgh on a run, Marc-Andre Fleury's out of a job, because Pittsburgh is going to need cap space for all the stars and all the talent they've got, and they want to surround Crosby and Malkin with other quality talent guys. You'd have to get rid of Fleury, especially if you got a kid on an entry-level contract that could be your starter. Amazing. What else? St. Louis. How can I have left St. Louis for last? I didn't give them much of a chance before the playoffs. As I said, they're St. Louis. But through 4 games, and until you've won that 4th game, you got to kind of hope that the powers that be, Zeus or Odin, whoever you want to pray to, you got to kind of hope they're on your side. And right now, if you're St. Louis, Odin has smiled upon you. And Thor's hammer has smashed upon the Blackhawks. And Chicago's reeling right now. St. Louis is controlling the play the way they want to. Brian Elliott's looked fantastic. If they can close this out, if St. Louis wins in 5, I'm wrong. If St. Louis wins this in 5, and they move on to the next round against either Dallas or Minnesota, and after the way Dallas shit the bed in Game 3, and now they got Antti Niemi as their starter tonight. Fucking Dallas. You pay $9 million a year to 2 goalies, and neither of them are starter caliber. Not in the playoffs. Regular season, sure. Playoffs, eh. We're going to have 2 starters. Isn't that fantastic? Oh, that's always worked out really well before. Thanks, Dallas. One of the teams I cheer for, and they fucked that up. But whoever St. Louis plays, I have to consider them a favorite based on the fact that they're handling Chicago. When you're waiting for this big comeback by Chicago, and after Game 3, I figured, here we go. Chicago's going to come back, and it's going to be ugly from here. And it hasn't happened. Because I remember as a Canucks fan, the Canucks would be up on Chicago and be like, this is the time. We're finally going to do it. And then Chicago would score, and you'd go, season's over. And you could be leading the series, and there's still 3 more games left, but you know, as a Canucks fan, Chicago just turned it on and we're fucked. And I'm waiting for them to do that to St. Louis. And it's possible. Game 5, they come out, they play great, they win 4-0, 5-1, whatever they do. And St. Louis is shell-shocked, and they're screwed. But I just don't see it happening. So, yeah, this year's playoffs, the surprises have been good. I've been very happy with the surprises. Apparently, viewership in Canada is down by 61%. That doesn't surprise me, but it does disappoint me. Because the Canadians are very seemingly upset when the Toronto Blue Jays do well and the Americans don't watch the games and they don't care. And I know as a Canadian hockey fan, when I watch an American channel, whether it's NBC, some ESPN feed that I get, and they talk about hockey, and they completely ignore all the Canadian teams, I get angry. But knowing that 61% of Canada doesn't give a shit about hockey with American teams in it, I guess I get it. I guess I understand. Next time I'm watching an American feed and they don't mention a team that's in first place because they're a Canadian team, I gotta say, yeah, no, they're right. Because we don't give a shit about the American teams. And I don't understand it, because these are Canadian kids. These are still Canadian kids playing hockey. There's as many Swedes playing for the Vancouver Canucks as there are Canadian kids, because, Swedes have been, the Canadian, or the Canucks way. And you could argue whether or not building around Swedes has built them into a good team that's not a great team, and if it's cost them the odds of being a great team, if they've been drafting Canadians all the time, we'll find out. Because Jim Benning's been drafting Canadian and American kids. And I gotta say, Jared McCann, Bo Horvat, Jake Virtanen, Thatcher Demko, Brock Boeser looks like he's gonna be good too. I'm telling you, this team that he's building looks really, really good. And we don't even know who they're gonna draft in the first round. I mean, if they win the draft lottery, Austin Matthews. So I might as well make this Vancouver centric since I'm wearing a Toronto Maple Leafs shirt. And every time I watch anything from Sportsnet or TSN, it's all about the Maple Leafs. So makes sense that since I'm a Canucks fan that, but today it's the Thatcher Demko thing. It's just got me very excited. So, yeah, it's been good hockey. Like I said, Tampa Detroit had me nervous last night, and I don't even have an emotional stake in it. I mean, I'm cheering for Tampa, but not in like a I'm crazy in love with the idea of Tampa holding up the Stanley Cup. I just I'm cheering for them, and when Detroit came back, I'm like, oh my god, I've seen this before. Oh, this is, and then it just didn't happen. Tampa won, and I'm always impressed by teams that when that tide turns against them, they can turn it back in their favor. That's huge. Some teams can do it, most teams can't. The ones that can are your winning teams. They're your Stanley Cup champions. They're the teams that, no matter what, they just win. And Chicago's been that team. The Kings have been that team. Maybe now Tampa and St. Louis can meet in the final. Maybe Pittsburgh. It's mind-blowing. These playoffs, there's so much parity in the league. And I think while people are upset over a 100-point team getting eliminated in the first round, you know what? It happens every year. It's not a big deal. And there wouldn't be so many fucking 100-point teams in the NHL if you got rid of the loser point. I'll do a video about that at some point. I will, because the loser point makes me very angry. I hate the loser point. Get rid of it. But that's not what this is about. This is about the playoffs, and the playoffs have been good. If you're not watching, you're honestly missing a movie that's going to set up a fantastic climax. And watching the fantastic climax without seeing the rest of the movie, you lose something. Unless it's an adult film, then it really doesn't matter. But still, watch. Because what else are you going to do? Primetime TV is mostly, other than Orphan Black. Orphan Black right now is some good shit. Orphan Black's fantastic right now. So yeah, that's my report for today on the playoffs, and I'll be watching tonight.